Now, go back again. How long? Go back again just a second, Gill. Instead of what Sitchin came up with, which was 3,600 years, and it was an elliptical orbit, your findings were different. You want to say that again?
Yes, it is a elliptical orbit, but it doesn't have a 3,600 year range because, remember, Sitchin had to interpret clay tablets. The zero did not exist yet. They knew that through other writings that they were able to come up with a correct assumption. That they use units of 60 as a counting unit. Like a foot is a unit of 12, and in Europe it's a unit of 10, but they had a unit of 60 that they were using. Well, when he read the clay tablets, it pretty much said, 6 times 6 he was trying to look at, for an orbit. But they knew one of the units was 60, so they thought, because they assumed that it never came in closer than that time period, they went 60 times 60. That gave them 3,600 years. Instead, they should have left it, 60 times 6, and that gives you 360 years. This orbit is closer to 360 than it is to 3,600. And this is through, also we can go through, and when we remember what science is, okay? There's people say, well, can you take the Bible serious, or can you take the Chinese documents serious? Can you take the clay tablets or papyrus serious? The answer to that, if it proves out. Okay, whenever you look at what the term science is like if we can take a paranormal phenomenon into the laboratory and show that it's repeatable, then there's a word for that. That's called science. And that's what we have right here. On a science basis, this object is repeatable. It follows Kepler's law of planetary motion. And we have it throughout the Bible multiple times. The eyewitness account, there's enough data in the eyewitness account that the model proves out they witnessed it. See?
Well, hold that thought right there. We'll get back to they witnessed it right after the break. We'll be up for a long segment. We'll see you on the other side. You're listening to Gill Broussard. Welcome back. Our guest is Gill Broussard, and we're discussing Planet 7X. Okay, Gill, this is a long segment, so we'll pick up where we stopped.
And
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Kind of. I'm not quite sure how to word this, so bear with me. You touched on Noah's flood for a bit. Now, if Planet 7X is going to cause all of the catastrophes that are discussed about in Revelation, what makes it different than when it's come through other times between now and our past at Noah's flood? Is it going to do something different, react differently with the planet, be closer?
It's relative to Earth's position when it's passing through. If Earth is in the wintertime, when it's going through March, then you just have drought conditions and volcanic activities and death of birds and fish, just like we're seeing at present. But and then whether or not we have debris following it is strictly random. It really depends on the Almighty loading the cylinder. We don't know if we're going to get bird shot or double-odd buck coming at us as far as the debris field, because there's no way of predicting it, because the object passes through two meteorite belts. Whether or not that area that is passing, is it just slips through the debris, or does it go through heavy debris area and the gravity is dragging it in its wake? There's no way of telling this.
Okay.
NASA would have to put satellites out there to see what's trailing it, which I'm sure they have. But so can it produce what Revelation Seal 6 and Seal 7 talks about? Absolutely. It's the model. There's nothing stated in Revelation 6 and 7 that doesn't contradict the model. Using, what we know of planetary physics and the occurrences from meteorite showers and such. So,
okay.
So, in other words, let me answer your question, will this next time will Earth be in a worse situation than its past? I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you. But I can point out scripture that tells you that this will be the worst time in the history of Earth, it says. Now, that's left up to the reader. Do you believe the Bible or not? I'm just quoting what the Bible is saying. Okay? But I personally do not have a crystal ball, and I cannot predict the future.
Now, is there going to be... No, I appreciate that. Is there going to be pole shifts, anything like that? I mean, what about the 3 days of darkness and things like that?
Yeah, let me separate from some things that people may have heard on the internet. The poles won't shift 180 degrees, or at least not at the beginning anyway. We may have had one maybe at Noah's flood, because the event was so large, it was, according to my estimates, I have a video out, the meteor that hit the Earth was about 110 miles across. It made a crater that's about 1,100 miles across, usually 10 times larger than what the meteor hit. And that crater is the Gulf of Mexico. And the Gulf of Mexico is deeper than the average depth of the Atlantic Ocean. There's multiple characteristics to a meteorite crater, and you can find them when you look carefully at the Gulf of Mexico. Matter of fact, it goes underneath this state that I'm in, about midway of this, and a half of this state is anything north of half of it is rock base. Anything south of that is where the Mississippi River filled in with settlement, and that's sitting on about a 45-degree rock shelf. It's already collapsed once, and that's what went into the Gulf, and that made the oil. Oil is pretty much buried green plant life. And matter of fact, the southern part of our state, part of Mobile, Alabama, north of Houston, all of that area, we're shifting further south and, down and south at the moment. It's so-called coastal erosion. It's not greenhouse warming. That's false information. It's so when it accumulates enough weight, it will slide again. Or when there's an impact that hits the Earth that shocks it, then it'll slide. And that will cut off about 80% of the natural gas and oil to the U.S.
Well, that would.
So we have America has a bunch of dominoes that's lined up that it cannot. It's like God lined them up because it says in the Bible, but it says 1/3 of the land, 1/3 of the grass, 1/3 of the trees, and later it mentions 1/3 of the rivers. They didn't have a word for continental crust. We're talking about an ancient language, but they're describing continental crust. And the model, you can show any model like this where only half in the month of April, it's the daylight side that's going to be hit with a meteorite shower. In the month of August, it's the nighttime side because of the way the debris is going in and circling the Earth and coming out. And the other half of the Earth is shielded because it's behind, the area that's being hit. So only half of the Earth can be hit by a meteorite shower. And it's describing in detail in the Bible that it's 1/3 of the continental crust. What half of the Earth has 1/3 of the continental crust? North and South America. And
interesting.
To give added emphasis to this, to show you that this object is real, remember the 3 hours of darkness during Yeshua's sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have a problem with astronomy right there, okay? You cannot have a solar eclipse during the time of a full moon, which Passover is on. It takes a new moon to make a solar eclipse because the moon is used to block the sun.
Right.
2, you can only have 7.3 minutes of an eclipse before Earth will rotate out of it because it's only a small spot. It's not the entire Earth. The text says the entire Earth was darkened for 3 hours. There's outside data outside the Bible that even states that, okay? So you're automatically looking at a third object that's many times bigger. And matter of fact, the model proves out an object roughly around 7 times the diameter of Earth will give you exactly a 3-hour eclipse.
Okay, say that again, Gill.
The model, the same overlay on what we've developed for the Chinese. Think of a train on a track that's going around the sun coming out. It will not jump track. That's a set path that it's going down. It may change its time on its arrival, but it's on that track. We're going to use that track or that overlay and we can duplicate using the same model these eyewitness accounts in the Bible and other outside eyewitness accounts as well. The model proves out what they saw. In other words, they could not have mimicked something falsely and still have it match the model that's following Kepler's laws of planetary motion and everything else. It's not because they had no idea of the movement of planets yet. They had no concept of that. They had no concept of Kepler's laws of planetary motion. They had nothing, no data to fake something like that and have it match. Okay? And then they could not conspire with the other group, which is roughly 360 years later, say, look, we're going to tell a common lie together, but I don't know you yet. You're 300-something years in the future. Okay? It doesn't meet practical.